Welcome to MadHouse-Creations. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make some artificial corn stalks that'll stand up to your fall weather. When I decorate for Halloween, I use a lot of corn stalks. But with the weather we have here in Michigan, between the rain and the wind, by the time Halloween comes, half of them are bent over or just destroyed from the weather. So I wanted to come up with something that was quick and easy. There's a couple videos on YouTube where people use masking tape and PVC, and they take quite a bit of time to make, so I wanted to come up with something different using these artificial leaves I found on Temu and some bamboo poles I found on Amazon. So with just a little bit of paint, we can put these together pretty quickly. All right, so I start off here by just trimming the wires on the leaves. I bought them in packs of 8. I believe it's about $3 or $4 for a pack of 8 leaves. And I'm just going to get them all laid out so I can get some spray paint on them. These I'm using the Rust-Oleum 2X paint and primer. The 3 colors I'm using is lemongrass, straw flowers, and dark walnut. They're all satin. This first coat is lemongrass, which is yellow. I'm just putting a light dusting on top. I really don't mind if the green shows through on these. They are just going to be used in the background and under haunt lighting, so they don't have to look perfect. And now I'm switching over to the satin straw flower, and this is just to add a little variation in color. Doesn't take much. And then I'm going to add a light dusting of the dark walnut. And I'm just flipping them over, do the same thing to the other side. And this really is a quick project. The only problem is you have to make quite a few of them, so each one of them takes a few minutes, but it's worth it. It'll last multiple years. The paint on the leaves will really help the sun protection, and the bamboo is not going to degrade at all. So just coming back with the straw flower. And then I hit it again with the dark walnut. I made the underside of the leaves a little bit darker. And that's it. After the bigger leaves dried, I grabbed my smaller ones. If you guys try this project and you find some leaves that work better than these ironwood leaves, please let me know down in the comments. I'm always interested in saving time. Now we're just going to let these dry. And now that they're dry, we're going to start working on the tassel. For this, I'm using some floral wire. I believe it's 20 gauge wire and some 5/8 jute rope. And this floral wire is about, I think it's about 20 inches long. So I just cut it in half, just rough cut. There's no need to be exact. And then I cut a piece of the jute rope, roughly the same length. A little longer would be okay as well. I separate the rope into 3 strands, put the wire in the middle with a little electrical tape to hold it, and then I start wrapping the rope back around the wire. And if you twist the ropes as you're wrapping them around, they will form back into the original shape of the rope. And I go up about 3 inches. And then here I'm going to put a little bead of hot glue. And I leave one strand sticking out So now I'm just wrapping 2 strands around the wire, go up about another 3 inches, and then add another bead of hot glue. And now I just wrap the single strand around. And there's videos where people roll these in grass seed. You can do all kinds of things to make them look really fancy, but for what I need them for, they're just going to be, you're going to see them in the dark. So I didn't want to spend the time on it. Now here at the tip of the wire, I'm putting one last little bead of hot glue all the way around the rope so it doesn't unravel. And then I go back and trim off the ends to there's probably about 3 or 4 inches hanging out on each one. And then I unravel those strands into their individual strands just to fluff it up a little bit, make it look a little more natural. They'll move around in the wind. There, I just trimmed off the little bit of wire that was still sticking out. And I'm just taking a bead of hot glue, putting it around each little individual rope so that way they don't unravel anymore. And with that, the tassels are done. So now I'm going to take my 8-foot piece of bamboo, put a little glue in the end, and shove the tassel inside. And now we're going to start taping on the leaves. I do have some smaller leaves, but if you guys only have one size, you can just cut them in half. It doesn't really matter how, it'll just cut down the length so they're not quite as long. And here I'm just going to get some electrical tape, get it cut into a couple pieces just to have it ready. Yeah, I find this project, it was a fun little project. It's so short, you can make a bunch of these in a day with no issues. It really only takes, other than the paint drying, it only takes 5 or 10 minutes to make these things. But here I'm just taking these leaves, cutting them down even shorter. And what I do here is I attach them with electrical tape just because it's going to be weatherproof and hold better than the masking tape. Then I put a little masking tape over the top so that way when I go back and paint it, the paint will stick better. It doesn't take much, just a few wraps. and then we move on to the next leaf. Now, usually when I do these, I will rotate each leaf about 90 degrees down the stalk. If you look at how corn naturally grows, it's not in a straight line or 180 from each other. They just kind of rotate as they go down. Yeah, just the same process till all the leaves are put on. Just a little electrical tape, a little masking tape. And I usually do about 3 or 4 of these smaller leaves before I switch over to the bigger leaves. But you could do it any way you want. It's just personal taste. I think it looks a little better being smaller at the top, more natural. And one nice thing about using the bamboo instead of like PVC or just a wood stick is it has the little knuckles, which seem to work out pretty well if I just put a leaf at every knuckle or every other knuckle. The spacing seems to work well. If you guys have any questions or comments or suggestions of how I could do these a little bit better, please let me know down in the comments below. I'm always interested in trying new things or learning new techniques. And depending on how you're going to display your corn, you could probably leave the last 2 or 3 feet with no leaves on it if you really wanted to. Nobody's really going to see the bottom if it's behind a monster or something. At the end of the video, I'll put a couple snapshots of my yard and how I use the corn stalks. This year, they're all real corn stalks, but you'll be able to see the amount that I use and why I want to create artificial ones. So now here, I'm just going to take some of the straw flower paint and go over each area that I use the masking tape just to help it blend in. The masking tape I was using is just cheap masking tape. It was really white. I think if you got like the what is it, Scotch brand tape from Home Depot, it's a little more natural color. You might not have to paint this part. And this cornstalk being so long, it was hard to keep it on camera and get this all done. So hopefully it looks okay for you guys. You can see it. Now here I'm going to go back with a dark walnut. I got a couple areas too heavy. So you just take a rag and blend it in. Overall, I think this turned out really well. I think once you group them together, I'm going to make about 50 of them. So once they're all clumped together or even mix them in with some real corn stalks, I think it'll look pretty cool. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.